at 4 p.m. So we'll commence just with the attendance. So Alderman Devaney.
Here.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Wark.
Here.
Councillor Barr.
Here.
Councillor Burke. Councillor Duffy.
Councillor Burke will be here shortly, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Here, Karen.
Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Ferguson.
Here, Karen.
Councillor Harkin.
Here, thanks.
Councillor Logue.
And Shaw.
Councillor McHugh.
Shaw.
Councillor Minnie. And Councillor Riley.
Here, Karen.
Thank you, members.
Okay, members, I'll read out the statement for remote meetings. I would like to remind everyone who is in remote attendance that this meeting will be broadcast live via the Council's YouTube channel and will be available for viewing by the public and media. The broadcast will also be available for repeated viewing at a later date. This broadcast may be determined or suspended in accordance with Council protocol. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. By participating in this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website, www.derrystrabane.com. Members, there will be anyone with declarations of members' interests at the minute if anybody wants to announce them now or as we go along in the chat box. No, I'll Okay, members, welcome to the Health and Communities Committee for Thursday, the 15th April. We'll go in now to chairperson's business. So I have just a few things that I wish to mention. Okay. First of all, I welcome the opportunity of a safe return to play and the importance of doing this can be on a phased basis. And sorry, I'll start that again. I'll leave that for now. I'll leave it to come back. First of all, sadly, I must condemn another barbaric incident in the city where another young man has been singled out and shot in both legs. There's no place for guns in our society, and I would urge anyone with information to do the right thing and contact the PSNI. More recently, in the days leading up to Easter and over the Easter weekend, many predominantly Protestant areas of the waterside seen unrest and needless attacks on the PSNI. And can I just take this opportunity to thank the community workers, residents and fellow councillors on the waterside who work tirelessly to prevent further escalations of violence. No matter what the PUL community's grievances are, it is absolutely wrong to attack police lines and cause destruction of their own areas. Such actions achieve nothing, and like occasions of the past, will only lead to young men receiving needless criminal records which could have been avoided. I would urge young members of the PUL community who are considering any more acts of violence to not to be led up the hill by the same political figures who were around at the times of Drumcree and flag protests and who subsequently washed their hands of those who received convictions at the time. Also, I'd like to talk about the return to sport. This week we've seen the return of team training, and we know with announcements expected from the executive today that it's no doubt that teams will return to full playing outdoor in the weeks ahead. So I welcome the opportunity of a safe return to play and the importance of doing this as on a phased basis. While the virus is still circulating, we have a shared responsibility to both protect the public and support their recovery. Sport and physical activity have been prioritised for return because of the important contribution being active makes to your physical and mental health and well-being. What sports can do to make a full return will change over time. It's great to see outdoor exercise back and our sportsmen and women, children and families and older people back on the road to fitness and well-being. To make this a long-term return, it's important to stick to the guidance and enjoy the opportunity to enjoy the benefits of being active as far as we are able. Council staff will be organising sessions with governing bodies, clubs and groups over the coming weeks to ensure Derry City and Strabane Council maximises this great opportunity and welcomes everybody back in a safe manner. That's all my chair's business, although Councillor Harkin did contact me. So Councillor Harkin, if you would like to speak there.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. And look, there's a lot can be said about the shooting that you mentioned, which is another one, unfortunately, that we're having to discuss here in the chamber, and also the unrest that we've seen. And one thing I will say is, along with you, I'll commend all the people, community workers, people from different backgrounds, political activists, others who made the case for people not to get involved in the unrest and the rioting. I think that this is, we have huge challenges in our society right now, and we need as much unity as possible amongst our communities, especially amongst those people who are the worst off and who have benefited the least over the last 20 years. So I think that that's a message that needs to go out. I think people have anger. They need to direct it to those in power who have the ability to make fundamental change. So it's possible we might see more unrest, and hopefully people will urge people to join together in campaigns for social change and justice that can bring about we can change people's expectations and aspirations. But what I wanted to speak on, Chair, and thank you for letting me in, it is connected to that. We spoke a lot this year about the contribution of our healthcare workers, and not just our healthcare workers, all the essential workers that have stayed in the front lines. And I think a spotlight has been put on the fact that many of those people, are low wage earners, or who work and are also on universal credit, or work and have to go to food banks. And indeed, those are people from all communities and all backgrounds and all faiths, and right across our society. And we're well over a year into this pandemic right now. And unfortunately, many people have died. Many healthcare workers, thousands of them, have died as a result of putting themselves at risk on the front line. And it's also the case that, that's true here on our island. It's true right across these islands and across the world. So the International Memorial Day is April 28th this year. And I think that it's very important that we, acknowledge that people have died on the front line fighting the pandemic and putting communities first. And I wanted to propose that we as a council host a minute's silence for all those healthcare workers and other essential workers who have died over the last year at work, confronting the pandemic, and that we host that minute's silence in line with the International Workers' Memorial Day, which is going to be happening on April 28th. So this will be part of the Workers' Rights and Social Justice Week. But I think that this is, I think that we should, this is going to be happening all over the world, and I think it's important that our council send out the message that we are fully appreciative of the contribution health workers and others have made to keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Did you say they make the proposal now for full council or for the minute silence? Yeah.
Chair, I think it would be appropriate that we do it at full council. It is the day after. Full council leaves on the 29th, whereas the International Workers' Memorial Day is on the 28th. So it probably would be easiest for us to do it at the full council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair, and I just want to comment on the comments you made regarding the latest shooting and the riots over the past while. First of all, the shooting, I would just want to, on behalf of our party, condemn the shooting. While there may be issues in and around, it is a well-proven fact that shooting people is not the way to address the issues. In fact, I had the young girl next door who was in hysterics and who had sent her young child of 18 months to another relative's house because of the shooting. They were just absolutely petrified, and the rest of the community too as well. So hopefully the people that are carrying out these shootings, they say on behalf of the community that they can see that they are fertile and do nothing at all to address the issues. And on the riots too, I would just like to condemn all those who engaged in those riots. And I want to thank all the workers, both community, political, or whoever they came from, to come out to try and quell the issues on the streets. But I would also like to say words can have a really, really detrimental impact. And it's easy to say words. It's so easy to incite violence and then walk away. So people that have got influence really need to be careful about how they address issues within the area, and be very, very mindful of how their words can be relayed and thought to mean by other people in the community. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. Councillor Minnie.
Yes, Chair, thanks for letting me on. Again, I like to associate our parties with your sentiments expressed on the shooting of that young lad. We totally condemn it outright, and also the fact as well as we like to associate ourselves with the comments of the disorder that occurred over the last while in the waterside. I know that you and the other waterside councillors were out mostly every night trying to find a way to try and bring it to an end. And again, we would just like to say that, you know, there's no place or room for that kind of behaviour. And like to just associate ourselves with your comments on that as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Minnie. Councillor or Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in and agree totally with you. And I just want to put our party on the record as saying that, look, we condemn all types of violence, no matter what side it's coming from. And I do appreciate that our party, my party colleagues, were on site where the rioting was ongoing and trying to quell the situation as well. And it's not a difficult it's a difficult problem to deal with at times. And secondly, Mr. Chairman, I just want to condemn the shooting that has taken place, and it seems to be a continuous issue and around shootings, and it has to be outrightly condemned. And anyone with information and around the shooting would get that information passed on to the PSNI to bring these guys to book, because there is no place in our society for this type of activity. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to make sure that it was across the full chamber that we are all in condemnation of the shooting and the recent riots, and to make sure that in both communities, the activists, the workers, and the community people who have been out in the road, out in the streets, get our thanks, because they have been vital. I know I've spoken with some community workers in the call, and you know, they really are the ones that are trying to, all the community workers and the activists and the political reps are all on the ground, really trying to keep the peace. So just wanted to basically put our party's words amongst the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Barr, did you want to come in there, or are you happy enough with the comment in the chat box?
I'm happy enough with the comment, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Riley.
Yes, thanks, Chair. And just to be associated with the points that people have made in relation to the ongoing violence that has happened in the waterside area over this past number of weeks. Attached to that, Chair, there's also been, unfortunately, similar violence elsewhere. But specifically, I'm thinking of the fact that between our city and Belfast, there was a train that had to make an emergency stop because of a burning car on the line. I'm conscious that the train driver, only through her swift actions and professionalism, that averted a tragedy on the line. So I think it would be appropriate for this committee, or certainly the Mayor of the Council, just to write the TransLink recording our gratitude and commendation to the train driver, to thank her for her swift actions and for dealing with that incident in such a way that meant that there was no injury or loss of life. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. And I would second that. In fact, I would be associated with those comments. I know that the train driver hasn't actually been driving trains for that long. And it was only by her quick thinking that she managed to save lives, no doubt, undoubtedly. Councillor Barr, if you want to come in there now, you don't matter for chairperson's business.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. I would just ask officers on this committee to maybe liaise with officers in ENR and colleagues in ENR in relation to this issue. I just want to raise the issue of hogweed before it becomes a major issue of concern with the public again. In the last few years, hogweed's been an area of major concern in the Strabane area. The bypass, the Lifford Road
the Meadows football rugby pitch. We had at least one incident in Strabane last year where a child came into contact with hogweed with painful consequences. I'm aware there are issues regarding jurisdiction responsibility when it comes to tackling the problem. So I would like to ask Council to identify the areas worst affected and liaise with those responsible for the property outside of Council remit in an effort to solve or at least minimise this worsening problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Not a member of committee, but totally endorse and support Councillor Barr on that issue. It's one I know myself and Councillor Edwards had identified an area on Sion Mills alongside the river, and of course the river runs on into Strabane, and seeds, etc., are being carried downstream from the location in Sion Mills. And I support Councillor Barr and indeed the sense of liaison with E&R in regard to this. It's an issue that needs to be tackled. You know, if youngsters in particular, much less adults, encounter hogweed, it can be quite devastating to you know, their health and well-being. So that needs to be taken care of, and support fully Councillor Barr on that. Thank you.
Alderman Hussey. Councillor Edwards.
Chair, thanks for letting me in, and thanks to Councillor Barr. And I don't think he needs a seconder, but if he does, I can second his proposal there. But completely agree with Councillor Barr and Alderman Hussey there, and not to go over the same thing again. I think there's a massive issue in terms of jurisdiction, whether it's council property, whether it's private property, or Derry can be responsible, or Rivers Agency, or Lochs Agency. So I do think that like all the agencies and all the authorities need to work together to properly tackle it under the legislation. Otherwise, it's, you know, it's a bit sporadic. Council can go out and spray a few hogweeds in that area, but if it's growing on private land nearby, it's always going to spread. So there needs to be sort of a holistic approach to it. Take the helicopter view with all agencies together. I think that's what's needed to tackle it. Otherwise, it's just going to be a continuing problem. But completely agree and support Councillor Barr here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair. And just to comment on that there too, like a lot of our issues within the council district, land ownership can be a big issue. And I would just like to say, like, Japanese knotweed is another blight and a very, very destructive weed that grows very, very, very fast. And I suppose it can do great untold damage to homes whenever it gets in under the fines and that. And there are many areas within the council district that also are blighted with this Japanese knotweed. And I know when Michaela brought the motion to council, I think Japanese knotweed was mentioned too as well. But nevertheless, I do think that council as an overarching body has a responsibility to engage with the owners of the lands where these weeds are growing, and they need to come up with a collective approach together for the citizens of this council area. Thank you. I would just like to say too, regarding the land, that you know, ownership can't be established. There needs to be some sort of solution brought to that too as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. No other indicated speakers, so I'm going to move on, but I'm going to jump to item 7.
Chair.
So we'll come back.
Sorry, Chair. Is everybody okay with the International Memorials Day proposal? I'm maybe presuming that they are then.
Awesome. Yep. Sorry, Sean. Sorry.
Chair,
I
second that proposal. Councillor
Okay.
Barr.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Barr. I think that's unanimous anyway. So I don't think anybody have any complaints about that. Everybody okay? Yep. I'm going to move on to item 7 now, because we've a few people have joined us, and I'll come back to item 6. So item 7, the determination of application for the renewal of entertainment's license for Danny O'Neill's Bar. So can I start by welcoming Mrs. Paula Kavanagh, an objector, and PSNI officer Paul Larkin. Mr. Danny Hurrell, a licensee applicant, proprietor of Danny O'Neill's Bar, will not be joining us today. But Council Officer Paul Rafferty will be reading a statement which Danny and his legal representative sent ahead of this meeting. So I'd just like to start off by introducing the members of committee and the officers. So if every member would like to introduce themselves to Mrs. Kavanagh and Officer Paul Larkin.
Alderman Morris Devaney, DUP.
Councillor Rachel Ferguson, Alliance.
Councillor Sean Mooney, SDLP.
Rory Farrell, SDLP.
Martin Riley, SDLP.
Sandra Duffy, Sinn Féin.
Sean Harkin, People Before Profit.
Patricia Loeb, Sinn Féin, councillor for the Mirror, DEA.
Raymond Barr, Independent, Strabane.
Graham Wark, DUP.
Stephen Edwards, SDLP.
Rory McHugh, Sinn Féin.
Not all the members now. Thank you, members. And the officers, we have Karen McFarland, Director of Health and Communities. We have Head of Health and Community Wellbeing, Seamus Donaghy. Lead Legal Service Officer, Philip Kingston. Council Officer, Paul Rafferty. And Lorraine Shields, PA Director. So, Barry, no, please here. No, that's us, isn't it? That's us all. Yeah. So, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Paula Kavanagh. Now, we're here today to determine of an application for the renewal of entertainment license for Danny O'Neill's Bar, in respect of which representations have been received. Now, I'm going to let Paul Rafferty go ahead and start. Am I right saying that, Seamus? You first. So Seamus Donaghy is going to take over now, and he's going to go through the process at the start. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members. I'll just give a quick overview in terms of the background to this application. And the purpose of the report is to provide members with information, including representations received, to enable the committee to make a determination of an application for the grant of an indoor entertainment licence for Danny O'Neill's Bar at 58 to 60 Ferguson Street. By way of background, members, the report outlines the relevant legislation which prescribes the process that both applicants and council must follow in relation to applications for entertainment licences, And members, you'll be aware that premises which hold entertainment are currently unable to operate due to coronavirus restrictions. In the meantime, Council recommends that licence holders make an application for the renewal of their entertainment licence prior to its expiry. The application this committee is considering was received on the 4th of December, and it's outlined in Appendix 1, and it summarises the status of the application with respect to required documentation certificates. Although the applicant had previously held an entertainment licence for the premises, that licence expired in October 2020, and therefore no entertainment may be provided at the premises until a licence has been granted. The report also outlines the type of entertainment and proposed hours of operation. In terms of key issues, members, when determining this application, Council must have regard to the provision of the required documents and certification outlined in Appendix 1. Any observations submitted by the PSNI and the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service, which are statutory consultees, and any representations received in relation to the application. Members of the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service have no objections to this application. Although the PSNI did not make any observations at the time of the application, a representative is present to provide an opinion on the application, the concerns raised, and answer any questions members may have. Members, 2 representations objecting to the application have been received within the specified time frame and are included in your papers as Appendix A and B. Members, Council must provide those who made representations and the applicant an opportunity to appear and be heard by committee prior to making a determination. The nature of the issues raised in the representations include noise late at night arising from loud music being played on the premises and customers communicating while standing outside the premises. There's also concerns raised about antisocial behaviour, road safety, parking and traffic concerns. Some other concerns raised, members, is alleged failure to adhere to COVID-19 restrictions. And members, 1 complaint has been received by the Council's Environmental Health Service in September 2020, and that's outlined in Appendix 4. In terms of considerations, members, it should be noted that the purpose of the entertainment licence regime is to ensure the safety of the individuals attending the entertainment and to avoid the entertainment causing disturbance to people in the surrounding area. And Council must grant or renew an entertainment licence with terms, conditions and restrictions specified. The Council has standard management rules for place of indoor entertainment, and they are outlined in Appendix 5, and they are based on the model terms and conditions produced by the Department. These include a noise condition which restricts noise breakout from the premises, and if members were minded, a licence could be granted with the special conditions relating to noise created. Members, both the applicant and those who made representations have been offered an opportunity to appear before and be heard by committee. In determining this application, committee must be mindful of the requirements that apply when a local authority is exercising its discretion and human rights considerations as summarised in Appendix 7. Members, should Council refuse to grant a licence, the applicant has a right to appeal to the County Court within 21 days of the date being notified of the decision, either to refuse the application or attach any terms, conditions or restrictions to the licence which he has aggrieved. And members, in terms of recommendation, members are recommended to determine the application for the grant of an entertainment licence, having regard to the representations and have been made, and they may decide to either grant the licence subject to all the documents and certification being received, can either grant a licence subject to all the necessary documentations but include conditions, or refuse the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Seamus, for all that there. Before the parties take their thing, they're permitted to speak for 10 minutes to state their case. And I'd just like to point out to Mrs. Kavanagh that there is no need for you to read out the statement if you don't wish to do so, but you can if you want. And then after each person commits themselves to their statement, I will allow you question and answers after each presentation. So first of all, on behalf of the licensee, Council Officer Paul Rafferty, will read the statement.
Okay, this is the statement of Danny Harrell. I have a lease of the licensed premises at 58 to 60 Ferguson Street, Derry, known as Danny O'Neill's, and I am the current holder of the intoxicating liquor licence for those premises. The bar is a family-run business, which I run with the assistance of my wife, Elaine, who is a qualified chef. We have worked together in hospitality for 30 years now and have never had any complaints against us in that period. We had our last bar for 10 years, and during that time, we ran a successful business and never had any complaints from neighbours. Music. The bar is open 12 hours a day and has music at the weekend, which lasts 2 hours per band. These entertainment hours are not the principal trading hours. The bar is a quiet bar during midweek, and the weekends are busy like most other bars in the city. We are very strict on our closing hours and have never served past trading hours. Local residents. I would say that we have a good relationship with neighbourhood residents who live beside the bar and streets further away. The residents enjoy having a bar in the area where they can drop in to meet their friends, and I believe they appreciate the way it is managed. I am always open to any suggestions they might have put, but apart from this present objection, we have had nothing but a positive reaction from residents. Coaches and parking. In relation to parking, I am not aware of any residential drives on Ferguson Street or of bar customers parking their cars on the pavement. Ferguson Street is a public street, and I do not have any control over where drivers park their vehicles or the identity of those drivers. I have never seen coaches on Ferguson Street, and to the best of my knowledge, they would not fit up it. On one occasion only, I saw a minibus which seated 16 persons parked down the main road. Abuse of alcohol and other substances. It is completely untrue that the bar is an environment where substance abuse occurs, and there is absolutely no evidence to support this. This is a family-run bar, and I would not tolerate such behaviour on my premises. Such allegations should have been immediately reported to the police. Drinking outside the premises. Customers most definitely are not allowed to drink outside the premises. Glasses or bottles are not allowed to leave the premises, and customers are made fully aware of this through signage displayed prominently on entering and exiting the bar. Door staff reinforce this message and have strict instructions to prevent this from happening. I personally ensure that the outside of the premises are kept clean on a daily basis and remove all litter. Emptying bottle bins. I am very much aware of the noise associated with removing bottles to outside bins. Extra bins were purchased by the business, and out of respect for the neighbouring residents, staff are strictly instructed not to empty bins to outside the premises after 8 p.m. Antisocial behaviour. The complainant refers to pub customers urinating and worse on the street and in his or her garden. I have never witnessed this and have no evidence whatsoever has been provided to show that these are pub customers. Ferguson Street is a public street, and these people can be coming from house parties or other venues. Bar staff quite regularly turn people away from the bar if they think they have already consumed too much alcohol, and it is completely unfair to categorically state without any proof whatsoever that this quite awful behaviour is caused by bar customers. COVID. Closing hours were reduced completely during COVID, and our staff always abided by these hours. It is totally untrue to say that the bar was open at 2 a.m. My wife and I get the premises cleaned up after closing as soon as possible, as we have to travel 45 minutes to our residential address and home to our family. It is completely untrue that we ever had a lock-in in the bar, and find these allegations particularly offensive. The PSNI called to our premises on 4 occasions during the pandemic for inspection, and we understood that they were satisfied that we were fully compliant with the regulations. As stated above, my wife is a qualified chef and prepares substantial meals for our customers. We organised a complete table booking system for the bar, which we advertised daily via social media, and spent so much money and time employing extra staff to ensure that our premises were safe for our customers and fully compliant with COVID-19 regulations. We were the first bar in Derry to have contact tracing, and we have had no cases of COVID-19 or close contacts reported from many of our customers, staff, or family members, which I think speaks for itself. And the statement is signed by Daniel Hurrell, 13th of April 2021.
Thank you, Paul, for presenting that statement there. Obviously, with Mr. Hurrell not here or any of his legal representative, we can't ask questions as such. So I'm going to go on now to the responsible authority, which is PSNI Officer Paul Larkin. So, Paul, if you would like to stand there and talk to the members and officers. Thank you.
Yes, I hope you all can hear me well. In difficult circumstances, I'm actually parked at the side of the road. So it's been a busy day. We're just from O'Neill's bar. Some of you could be well aware that this bar is running was the Barry bar. And since 2014, there's been 7 different licenses to the premises. And every one of those licensees had issues regarding residential issues, etc. Now, most of those licensees didn't keep the bar running for any more than a year at most, maybe, in most occasions. But Danny Hurrell and his wife Elaine took control of the bar September 2019, which was about 5 months before our president was down. The premises do have an Article 44 extension on their license, which permits them to trade alcohol up to 1 a.m. From Monday to Saturday and midnight on a Sunday night, providing they've either live entertainment or provide a substantial refreshment, i.e. a main table meal. Historically, the bar has never really provided food, to the best of my knowledge, and any of my inspections until recently had no evidence of any food ever been served on the although you'll be aware a lot of bars did implement some sort of food service whenever the restrictions were allowed to be temporarily lifted, where bars could trade if they were serving food. We found a lot of bars put in pizza burners, various types of small cooking cookers, etc., in order to get their bar open under the terms of the restrictions. But like I said, that was many bars also done that. It'd be unfair of me then to highlight any instance that took place with the bar prior to Danny Hurrell taking control of the premises. Since he has, we have had 6 incidents at the bar that we are aware of. That's not counting other inspections that we conducted during COVID checks. So, like I said, there's 6 incidents there. So if anyone wishes to talk about those incidents, or sure, if you want me to briefly outline the incidents.
The members would prefer if you did outline them, because that's no doubt they'll be asking anyway, so you may go ahead.
Okay, I'll outline them as best as possible. Monday the 3rd of August 2020 at 00:52 hours, the police received a report of an ongoing disturbance. Police arrived at 2 minutes past 1 a.m. and noted approximately 6 persons outside the bar. One male was reported to have his shirt removed. There was no disturbance at that stage, although police believe there may have been an altercation prior to their arrival, and all persons left the area upon police arrival. Police were of the impression that these people had emanated from the licensed premises, and certainly not a house party or any other residential address. Saturday the 29th of August 2020, 22:30 hours, police inspected the premises as part of COVID regulations. Persons were present in the bar and no food was apparent, nor empty plates were at the tables. Advice was provided, and when police returned at 22:30 hours, 1 hour later, all patrons had left the premises and there was only staff left cleaning up. On Sunday, the 20th of September 2020, 22:06 hours, police received a report of a large-scale disturbance outside the bar. Police responded immediately, and they noted a large number of persons outside the bar acting aggressively. Given the numbers, police were unable to ascertain what had occurred, but it was evident that some type of altercation had occurred prior to their arrival. CCTV, which was then observed by police, does show that there was a disturbance involving a number of people prior to police attending. As a result of this incident, a criminal investigation was initiated, and the matter is yet to be completed, and a report to the Public Prosecution Service will be submitted in the near future. Offences committed by one person at this stage. Friday, 2nd of October 2020, 23:35 hours, police conducted a routine check under the COVID regulations. The bar appeared to be closed up at that time. Sunday, 20th of December 2020 at 23:37 hours, disturbance outside the bar was reported. The police arrived 00:53 hours and reported that there was no one in the vicinity or any disturbance at that time. Our final incident was on Wednesday, the 23rd of December 2020, 23:08 hours. The police received a report from a passing motorist that they were unable to drive up the street due to the large numbers congregating outside the bar and a high number of parked cars in the vicinity. It was also reported that the crowd had pints of beer in their hands and some were driving cars whilst holding these pints. Police didn't actually arrive there until 00:28 hours, as they were twice redeployed prior to arrival to emergency incidents. At that stage, the bar appeared to be closed up, but there were a number of persons standing around the vicinity of the bar and on Foyle Road. They all appeared to be highly intoxicated and were trying to avail of local taxi services. Although police will confirm that at that stage the bar was closed, it was their belief that these persons had clearly all emanated from the bar on Lower Ferguson Street just a short time earlier. After that, then another lockdown came in, and since that lockdown, we have had no reason or any reports to attend the bar to this date. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul, for that there. Much appreciated. I'm going to open this to the members. If they have any questions for Paul now, if you just put on the chat box there, who wants to speak first? Councillor Mooney, go ahead there.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Paul, for coming to the committee and address the committee. I've really only got one question, really. See the incident on the 20th of September and the last incident you outlined. Do you believe it was, or is it police belief that the crowds, the large crowds, that they come from the bar or within the bar at that time? I know there's a statement saying that, I think the statement is saying that that from Danny Hurl saying, I've never witnessed this and no evidence whatsoever has been provided to show that these were pub customers. So I was wondering, would that be police's belief that, especially in those two instances where there was large gatherings, do you believe that that these patrons or these people came from the pub licensed premises? Thank you, Paul.
Yes, Sean. The incident on the 20th of September, I personally witnessed the CCTV from the bar, actually, and it was clear that everyone had come from the bar, and a disturbance had erupted either at the front door or slightly outside the bar, but all those involved were certainly from the bar. The incident on the 20th of December, the 23rd of December, I spoke to the police officers who attended that, and it was their belief at the time that this was the type of crowd that you would have seen coming out of a bar, any other bar in the city. They said it certainly didn't look as if it come from a house party. There was no evidence of a house party in the area, and it was their opinion. Although the bar was closed, they still believed that those people had come from the bar, and that was just their opinion, and I got that from them last week, Sean. Hope that answers that part.
That's great, Paul. Just Chair, can I just one follow-up there? Sorry.
Sean, I probably where I'm fairly deaf, so if I haven't heard it.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Paul. I'll slow down then. See the other incidents you mentioned, the other four outstanding incidents. I know that police have come and they've seen our matters, but on the other four incidents raised, do you, as the police's belief or knowledge that that there was any other sort of COVID, or sorry, not any other breaches in relation to the regulations at that time by crowds emanating or any other disturbances?
Yeah, Sean. There was some confusion with regulations that food.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, one of those incidents, police had attended that were on display at that time. When they're, you would expect in any restaurant, at least some people you would expect to eat. You would expect to see some empty plates, and you would expect to see some people maybe waiting on food. There was no evidence of food at that time, and police did issue advice and guidance to the licensees regarding the substantial refreshment had to be supplied in order to have the bar open. So advice and guidance was provided. Just whenever police actually called back, the bar had actually was closed up, but apart from staff who were cleaning up.
That's great, Paul. Thank you for your time. I have no further questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mooney. Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Paul, for that information. So I suppose just for my own clarity, would it be fair to say that on that instance, the first COVID related visit, that the COVID rules were being broken at that time? And my second question would be, while you have mentioned these 6 most recent visits by yourselves, has this the trouble around this bar ever been brought up at the Moor Community Safety Response Committee? I know there is the Triax Community Safety Forum, and CRJ, yourselves and the council wardens would be part of it. So has this area been discussed and maybe highlighted as a hotspot? And also, prior to the current leaseholder, what is the rate of PSNI attendance prior that, and would they have been a similar nature? Thank you.
Patricia,
Thank you, Councillor.
I only got part of that. I'm sorry. Sorry, you want me to speak, Mr. Chair? Yep.
No, Paul, I was going to say, if you're only picking up some, if you want to turn off your camera maybe, and just, sometimes it makes it a bit better for you.
It's just sometimes I have to rely on the breathing, you know.
Chair, do you want me to say that again? Paul, what I was asking was, is it fair to say that on the visit, the first COVID visit, that in the police's opinion, Wiley's gave advice that they were operating, they were not operating under the COVID-19 rules? The second part of my question was, are you aware, has this issues around this bar ever been discussed at the Triax community safety team? And the third question was, what do you know how many other times that yourselves would have been called prior to the current leaseholder holding the lease at that time? You know, or have they been of a similar nature? Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
Patricia,
you.
yeah. Patricia, yep. The COVID regulations and those incidents, there was a lot of confusion within the licensing community and also with police as well, because the regulations were changing in a rapid rate at that time. At that time, it was expected that food will be served. However, given the lateness of the night, you wouldn't expect to see too many people eating. If there was a breach of those regulations, it would have been pretty minor. And I think police at that time gave the licensee the benefit of the doubt when they said they were serving food. So guidance was provided. I wasn't one of those officers at the time, but from speaking to them, that's the information that I was provided with. The triax meetings, I'm not aware of those that have been raised, and I don't think I've been aware of any of those meetings in recent times, so I can't answer that, Patricia. The prior instance, I can't really give it to you now because I only compiled this report really from the time Mr. Hill took control of the bar. And even at that, I don't think it would even give a fair reflection because the bar has had periods where it has been closed for months on end. So you would maybe find a period of 8 to 9 months where there's been no incidents reported, mainly because the bar has been closed. So I certainly can provide that should the committee wish, but it would be tomorrow before I could be able to get that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
That's okay. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. Now, my question was similar to Patricia's in incidents before the current licence holder, but I know Paul doesn't have that, but I suppose more of a general question. Would this be in line with some similar that you would see from residential bars, the kind of antisocial behaviour that you're having? Would it be something similar that you would see in other areas, or is it just from this area and this bar?
Yes, so we do have many bars throughout the city and in Strabane and residential areas where we would get little or no complaints about those bars. However, historically, this bar just happens to be in a very close residential area. I would say out of the city itself, not counting Strabane, but certainly would be probably the bar where you would receive the most complaints in a residential area. And that's been historically, and that has been before Mr. Hurl took that bar on. If that sounds fair enough.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for that. I just have a question. Due to the fact it's been about an entertainment license, when the PSNI turned up in any of those nights, them 6 incidents, was there any entertainment at all taking place? And when it was the Bowery bar, was it the same? Was there still a number of incidents relating to antisocial behaviour outside it? Complaints made by residents?
Yes, Darren, or Mr. Chair, sorry. Yes, like I said, previously we would have had instances from previous licensees where there was entertainment noted. We did have discussions with the council at that time. It goes back to Sean Austin's time as well, where we were close to pushing through with corporate prosecutions, etc. However, like I said, those licensees never really stayed on very long. And by the time we got actually round to pushing it further, the bars had closed and they'd given up the licenses. So it just seems to be specific to this one bar, but not necessarily the one licensee.
Okay, Paul, thank you for that. I have no other indicated speakers, but I will ask if Mrs. Kavanagh would like to ask any questions. Is she there? Mrs. Kavanagh, can you hear me there? If you just unmute yourself there at along the bottom. Mrs. Kavanagh, if you ever have bother getting in there, even if I want to put something in the chat box. She's unmuted herself now. She's okay there now. Mrs. Kavanagh, can you hear me? You're back on mute again now. Ms. Kavanagh, can you hear us? If you unmute yourself there and just speak in the mic, or just here we are now. Yep. The video connection is working, but the audio isn't. Right. If you want to leave the meeting and come back in, maybe that there might sort the problem out. We'll wait until you sign back in again. Is that okay? Do you hear that okay? No, I see. I'll just hear. She signed out, honey. So we'll let her sign back in again. Members, we'll give another few minutes just to let Mrs. Kavanagh get back in there. Members, we're trying to resolve this. We'll give it a few more minutes. Mrs. Kavanagh, can you hear us this time?
Not, you're muted.
Oh, yeah, I can hear now.
That's great. That's great. We hear you as well.
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay. If you would like to ask Paul Larkin of the PSNA any questions, you're free to do so.
Just about regarding the unsociable behaviour from the bar, that we've actually seen the customers come out of the bar, and hours later, we're seeing the customers, familiar faces, let's just say, and they're fighting, breaking glass, being very disruptive, waking our children at night. The vandalism, there's just so much problems. I was told that I would be getting a police man to come out and talk to us about the antisocial behaviour, but that has never happened, and I'm just wondering, would you know why?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kavanagh. Paul, if you want to come back in there.
Yes, Mr. Kavanagh. I'm not sure if I heard all that correctly, but you did ask, was there any anticipated communication with residents on the bar? We would, normal circumstances, yes, we would try and facilitate some sort of dialogue with the bar and local residents. However, given the COVID restrictions at the moment, our capabilities are strictly reduced regards contact with people really on a necessary basis. But certainly, I would encourage yourself and any residents, should any incidents occur, to phone the 101 police number, or if you think it's an emergency, to use the 999 system, and we will respond. And as I said, I was able to clarify response times in those instances that I highlighted. I may have missed something else, or but if that's answered your question, and it hasn't, just please forward it again. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm finding it difficult to hear. At the moment, I'm going to try and see if I can do something.
Maybe just Paul, because I know Paul's sounded low down there as well. Can you hear me any better?
I can actually.
No, well, that's not. No, I think it was just Paul himself there. We'll move on there now, Ms. Kavanagh. If you would like to now speak to the members. Now, you've up to 10 minutes, just in case you didn't pick it up earlier. You've up to 10 minutes. You don't need to read out your statement if you choose not to, because most members will have read it anyway. So you're free to take the floor there now.
Regarding the bar, we've seen a lot of, as I said previously, antisocial behaviour. Customers coming along and urinating up against my door, using it as a public toilet. There's been a lot happening. Glasses being put under my tires. I'm having to replace them. The nightly basis, there's glasses left on people's windowsills, including ours, banging on our windows, doors. There's the concern about the van, the registered van. They use is the registration is like Yes Lad. Now this van drives around the area, but when it goes to go down Ferguson Street, which is a one-way system, I've noticed it at midnight, a lot of nights, the noise of the bottles in the back of the van, and it is bottles, is horrendous. The fighting disturbs my children. My daughter sleeps on the 3rd floor And lots of times my daughter's wakened and very distraught. We have a foster daughter lives with us who has bad experiences of fighting and drugs and drink. And the same goes for her. She's on the second floor. Was it all summer? We hardly get any sleep. Doors open, music blaring from the pub, back door open, front door open, the crowds in the street. The weekend, Sunday afternoon, say, during lockdown, music blaring. So we don't get any sleep. We don't get any peace from the noise. People are out crying about it. People are complaining about it. And then I've been told that people are afraid to go back and complain about it. We have just had endless problems since that bar reopened. We've had so much peace. We're sleeping at night since it closed, fully closed. We now have sleep, which is great. Sorry, 1 second. I had a few things written down. Yeah, but the noise bleeding out it's terrible. We have some elderly neighbours that lives around us, and they won't come out at all. Obviously, they're afraid. They're getting windows battered. In fact, so much so that one of my neighbours, my husband, had to fix his window. We have a camper van, and their customers damaged the windows of the camper van. So it's just ongoing bad behaviour and disgusting behaviour. Violence outside your door. We would feel that a lot of the statement from Mr. Hurrell is not true and backed up by the police. Although in saying that, we have seen more incidents than what's obviously reported. It's an ongoing issue. We live in a residential area, and it's not nice when you go out your front door and you're finding condoms, used condoms. So it's kind of very disturbing. I hope I've covered everything. I'm not sure.
Are you happy with that presentation, Mrs. Kavanagh, now? Would you like to say anything else?
Well, there was one night, one of the incidents was there was a large crowd, and it might have been the one that the police officer has spoken already about, but the actual bouncer, the doorman on the door, assaulted. But he was sorry, I probably shouldn't have said that, but it was the actual doorman was taken away in cuffs. And the talk in the area is bad, like about there's a lot of fear of drugs. It's a known bar, let's just say. And I feel that now I'm putting myself here on the line. I'm worried about backlash, and I'm just going to put it out there.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Kavanagh, are you happy enough with that there now?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll go to open it to the floor here now. So, Morris, you had indicated that you want to speak, but was that to ask Paul or Mrs. Kavanagh?
You, Chair. No, I'll come in and I'll speak on the same issue that I was going to ask Paul.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and I appreciate the difficult circumstances Mrs. Kavanagh has come on here and she talks very much about being afraid and neighbours being afraid. But I want to just go back to Paul in relation to Mrs. Kavanagh's comment and around when there was some liaison officer to maybe come back to speak to Mrs. Kavanagh and discuss. And I know Paul has relayed there very clearly, yes, we know the COVID restrictions, but Mrs. Kavanagh, surely would you have expected even at least a phone call from the police to discuss, maybe not being able to, because of the COVID restrictions, maybe they couldn't come in present.
Yes, yes, I would have expected not a phone call, a visit. They have often come here for footage from my CCTV about other incidents in the area. So I would have expected the least, not a favour to be returned, but acknowledges after all we've given them footage when they needed it.
And probably just the second question I wanted to ask you, and around Ms. Kavanagh as well. You talk about others afraid to complain.
Yes.
And why would they be afraid to complain? What is your opinion?
It's known as it's kind of like rough. It's a rough kind of place. Yeah, a neighbour actually said that she had went to the bar, and the publican's wife, when she approached her, actually made a threat against her.
And intervene at that stage. We can't take hearsay evidence in relation to that. If we
All right, I was
talk,
just
we would
responding
need
to the other neighbours.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Mrs. Kavanagh, but unfortunately, unless the individual is here to speak for themselves, the committee wouldn't be able to hear on that particular point. So, thank you.
No, I'm happy enough, Mrs. Kavanagh, at the moment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just respond there to Mr. Devaney's comments there?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just yes, I will look up who that officer was. I presume it'll be from one of the neighbourhood teams for that area. I will chase that up and find out who that officer was, and we will make contact with Gavin in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Councillor Logue.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mrs. Kavanagh. And just I suppose come on to what Paul says. I'm glad to hear that contact is going to be made, because all too often the community are expecting responses, and if we want to gain I suppose confidence within community policing, then at the very least promises made of contact need to be followed up. So I'm glad that is going to be followed up now. Now, I would just like to ask Mrs. Kavanagh, I quite understand the fear. You are very welcome here today to give your account, and it is very brief, because people's fear is real. And you should be supported through this process. Can I just ask you, I know you mentioned earlier there, which we can't talk about another neighbour approaching. Have you ever approached the leaseholder?
No.
You have never, right?
I don't even know what the man looks like.
Right. Can you advise me, in the leaseholder's statement, he advised that he had a very good relationship with the neighbours and the neighbourhood. I am somewhat, if that was me, I personally would be looking for testimonials at the very least, if he couldn't have been here, to back up what he was saying. But you're obviously a long-term resident of that area, I would presume. the bar has been there a long time. In your opinion, you know, how is this leaseholder's tenure compared to previous? And I know we can't really take the word of people who aren't here, but I understand people's fear, and there probably would have been more people here today to talk about this. But you know, community feeling within the area. If you could maybe, would it be okay if Mrs. Kavanagh could just maybe say a few words on that? Or is the feeling there that the leaseholder has got the confidence of the community?
A lot of people were supposed, sorry, am I okay to speak?
Ms. Kavanagh, go ahead. I was just going to bring you in there.
Sorry. A lot of people have been on the street when the police have come out, especially on the nights when there's these disturbances and there's large crowds there. A lot of people have said that they have phoned council, they have phoned police. Now, I'm not there to know that they've actually done it, but the people that saying they've done it lives right beside the bar, whereas I'm up the street a bit. They show fear and anxiety, but I don't know why they're not on the platform today. I feel disappointed, but if they're afraid or have any other reasons, I can't say nothing about that. It's beyond my control. I need to protect my children from all this violence and antisocial behaviour. They'll have to speak for themselves if they wish. I hope that makes some sense.
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
And just as a follow-on, would you say there is any support that there would be a good relationship with them, with any residents? Right.
No.
That's okay.
The only people that we would see coming in and out and we hear in the streets is Donegal accents, and that is from me. I've heard it. The DL cars, the DL minibuses that line the both sides of the street, which is a very narrow street. It's one way. They go down it like a racing track. They come up it like a racing track. 12ish at night. It's really unacceptable. And there's no relationship with the residents and the bar owner, as far as I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair Kavanagh. And we just wanted to ask, I know the buyer's been around for a few years.
Sorry?
License holder is, or are you constantly dealing with this issue no matter who's running it, or is it, you know, just something that's escalated over the last couple of years?
This is the first time that I've ever been proactive in disputing anybody or anybody's business. I would never do that. But it's got the stage now that I'm at the end of my tether. Regardless of anybody else, I'm at the end of my tether. And I'm finding it hard. If I go back to sleepless nights, how am I supposed to have a happy home, happy children, if none of us are sleeping?
Before, you know, the license would have came up for renewal, when there was other people overseeing the bar, would you have wanted to put an objection in but never did so, or is it just that you've got to the point now that it's too much?
It's just too much. I would never interfere with anybody's business, or it's hard enough to make a living these days, but this is too much.
Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mrs. Kavanagh. It's just really a follow on, I think, from the previous speaker, Councillor Ferguson. Police have sort of told us that they've got 6 incidents registered about them and their system, about them coming out of the bar. And obviously, you've said maybe just we have seen more incidents than what is reported. I think that's your words.
Yes.
Whatever, the chair. But could you maybe give us some sort of quantification of how many incidents you would believe, or even how, in an average week, when this bar was open over the COVID period, how many incidents would you have maybe noted during the week or the weekend or whatever, and when was it bad? Just to give us a flavour of.
Well,
because the police are saying 6 incidents that they have on record. The bar owner says that he's called, it has premises on 4 occasions during the pandemic. But if you give us a quantification, just they see, what the different opinions are, please.
Well, can I say on a couple of occasions I have phoned 101.
Yeah.
I've been referred to a website. I couldn't get anybody. By the time the incident was over and the people had dispersed, it was too late. What were the police going to come out and see by then? Thursday to Sunday is the nights that we don't get any sleep. Thursday right through to Sunday. Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, we get back to some kind of normality. And since there's been fighting, there's been smashing bottles or pint glasses, bottles, fighting outside my door, urinating up against my door. The list goes on. And this is over various nights over the summer, last summer. Well, I'm not sure of the dates. I never kept a diary, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I've never done this before, so I wouldn't know to do things like that.
So what you're telling us, this was sort of continuous? Was this like every weekend?
Yeah, most definitely.
I don't want to be leading, but would that be?
Sorry, one second, I'm finding it hard to hear.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So would that have been continuous every weekend, or would it have been every second weekend, or would it have been sort of
every weekend? Every weekend there's some kind of incident, whether it's smashing glass or a full-scale fight without the boxing gloves.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Cavanagh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mooney. Ms. Kavanagh, thank you very much for that there. I've just one question myself here.
Okay.
Have you been asked to represent other residents in the area? Do other residents know that you have came forward with this? And do you think the situation could be resolved if there was no entertainment? Or is it just any time? It could be any time there has been disturbances.
I think the entertainment and going on the early hours of the morning attribute to all the problems that we have been experiencing. We live in a built-up residential area. There's lots of houses, lots of children, lots of old people, etc., etc. We've no life. People are afraid to go out the street, and I've been told that. I know I shouldn't say it, I'm not supposed to, but people are afraid. The old people are afraid.
Okay, thank you for that there, and thank you for your presentation. I'll hand over to you now, Seamus. Just go to summer. Yeah, go to summers. Okay. Is there anyone Mrs. Kavanagh or Paul would like to summarise now and finish up before the members depart to make a decision on this.
I'm fine, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Kavanagh, would you like to say anything else to summarise anything up, or are you happy enough?
Sorry, I feel that I've said my piece.
Okay, that's
and
okay. Thank you.
all for listening.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming here. So at this point, we will leave it, but we're going to place Mrs. Kavanagh and Paul and members or councillors who are not members of this committee in the lobby while all our members discuss this. So if we would just...
Chair, point of order, Councillor John Boyle here.
Go ahead, John.
Chair, I'm curious as to why you would feel it appropriate to place members here, not members of the committee, into the lobby. I think it would be appropriate for us to be able to hear your deliberations, given that I'm prepared for that particular area.
John, that's what we've been advised to do on this.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I'll take that advice. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
On a further point, I'm not a member of committee, but is the committee meeting in confidential? Because if not, it's on the internet anyway, or the YouTube.
We're moving it to confidential.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, do you need a proposer to move into confidential? No.
Boris, yep.
Proposer to move into confidential?
Happy second, Chair.
Okay, Sean. Can we place people in